name is Annette Lawler, founder Lion People Global. Welcome to the next episode of M&A Talks, Mergers and Acquisitions Talks for the Localization Industry. As always, we have our resident expert, Olga Blasko. Hi Olga, how are you?
I'm good, how are you, Annette?
Fantastic. Olga, there's a lot to cover in this topic of mergers and acquisitions.
Yeah.
Today, why don't we look at from a seller's perspective. So if we're a language service provider, we're thinking about maybe the future, and should we merge with another company to go global, or perhaps we should think about changing our lifestyle. We've been doing it for a long time. Let's maybe look at it from that perspective, and what would be some of the considerations we should take into account if we are a seller in that position?
I think one of the first things is to consider that for a lot of people, not every single company, but for most companies, it's a once in a lifetime transaction. Mm-hmm. I've been building this for many years, sometimes as much as 25 or 30 years, and now I want to retire and I want to sell. So it's that once that you're selling, and there is all that kind of psychological build-up, first of all, I'm doing this, my baby, I'm letting go of my baby, but at the same time you want to cash in. So for a lot of people who want to sell, it's about getting psychologically ready to do that, and to get your ducks in a row in terms of having, all your accounts in order, having, everything in order, so that you can showcase, your strengths to be able to sell. And it can also be, I think, a kind of an emotional roller coaster at times, because you're maybe dealing with more than one buyer at the same time, or with more than one broker. Mm-hmm. So you might be getting people calling you and making you offers straight away, or people that are asking you to sign NDAs or do all this kind of stuff. And some people are not necessarily ready for what's about to happen the minute they say they're in the market.
Okay. So they need to understand really what is their motivation for selling. They need to kind of go through a checklist. What might be some of those typical motivations that people might have for selling or wanting to sell?
Actually, the motivation is a very, very important thing. I think it's underestimated sometimes that you really need to understand why you're doing this. Obviously retirement is a very obvious one. Mm-hmm. I want to retire, I want to change of lifestyle, I want to work less, I want to kind of for some people, they tell you I want to spend time with my grandchildren or whatever it is. But some people, they want to sell because they might realize that they want to join a bigger company. Mm-hmm. As in, I want to sell so that my company becomes part of something bigger, and that buyer takes it to the next level, and I can join that company and then become, somebody that, drives together with the rest of the management team in order to make something happen. Sometimes when you have a company that it's owned by, two or several partners, maybe some people want to go and one wants to stay, and they need to agree, what the motivation is. And sometimes to get to that agreement, before they go to market is a little bit of a challenge. And lastly, perhaps, there's some of these, and more than we care to admit, some people want to sell because they might have immediate capital needs. They might have incurred into debt, or they might want to do something, or they need they need to cash in, so they basically need the money, and they want to sell because they want the money now. And those are the kind of deals that would be handy for opportunistic buyers. So it would be somebody that is like looking for buying something quickly, and somebody that is ready to do that. So we have all of those, and to understand which one it is, or what kind of seller you are, it's good because you will help the buyer understand what you want.
Sure. So you have to reflect a little bit, and I suppose in that reflection you're probably thinking about your motivation, but you're also thinking about what would be your value drivers, what would make you attractive to a potential buyer. What are some of those value drivers that perhaps a seller should look at?
The value drivers, I would say that from a seller's perspective, you need to understand that what may be a value driver for you will not be perceived the same way. So by a buyer. So you need to kind of put yourself in the shoes of a buyer. Like when they're looking at your company, what is it that they will find attractive? Why should they buy you? So obviously an obvious one as well is the financial performance. If you have build, a nice piece of business, that is, has nice level of growth, has potential for growth, and has, nice profits. I mean, obviously that will be in itself an attractive proposition. But that's not just the only thing that one should consider, because there might be companies that are investing a lot, and therefore their profit may have decreased as a result of the investment, but the investment makes them attractive because they might be able to take off. Another of the value drivers is the client portfolio. Like, you have a nice client portfolio, whether it's very niche or whether it's diversified, in a kind of an attractive way, that for another company, that doesn't have any expertise in that area, it might be, well, if I acquire this company, so all of a sudden I have, this client portfolio additional to what I already have. Another value driver, the infrastructure or geographical presence. I mean, I have, offices here and there. That makes me attractive, because whoever buys me all of a sudden gets a foothold in that kind of market. It might be also a piece of technology that you may have. So obviously, if you have something that has given really good results, and has boosted your performance, it might be something that will help the buyer, boost their performance. So, all these things, are there to be considered. If you tick all those boxes, the more boxes you tick, the more attractive you will become for a buyer.
Sure.